Good afternoon, everyone. It is now 4:05, and I call to order the Palm Desert City Council agenda. I'm sorry, my brain is scrambled. I'm thinking somewhere else. We're going to start our council meeting for July 11th. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick.
Here.
Councilmember Kelly.
Here.
Councilmember Nastandi.
Here.
Mayor Quintanilla.
Present.
Councilmember Truby is absent, and we have a quorum.
Thank you. We will now have Mayor Pro Tem Harnick lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by Councilmember Kelly with our inspiration for this meeting.
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will soon lose a tremendous source of inspiration. And that is the company, the physical company of the greatest generation. I'm very privileged that I live with a member of the greatest generation. And this week, we were browsing through her high school yearbook from 1943. It was a poignant time because she and others watched boys as they turned 18 disappear from high school to be drafted. The front of this yearbook lists approximately 600 recent graduates serving in the military at the time it was published. The foreword reads, "This book has been dedicated to our servicemen, and every student stands behind this dedication with faith in the future." Those are the words that really gripped me. Faith in the future. In the time of their sacrifice, they had faith in us. Faith that we would make good use of the freedoms they gave their lives to preserve. I hope and I pray that we will justify their faith and do our part in our time to be a nation indivisible. 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 With liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much for that touching, inspirational, Councilmember Kelly. Do we have any report from closed session?
Thank you, Mayor. There's no report from closed session from this afternoon.
Having no report from, couldn't quite hear you, Isra, but I imagine that that's what it was. Okay, having
Yes.
no report
There's
from.
no reportable action from closed session.
Okay, we will now move on to item 9, awards, presentations, and appointments with the proclamation for Outdoor Worker Appreciation Day. This is rather fitting given our extreme weather that we are experiencing. Whereas outdoor workers provide many essential services throughout California, and whereas industries like emergency services, landscaping, renewable energy, public utilities, agriculture, professional sports, tourism, and construction depend heavily upon the labor of outdoor workers. And whereas in addition to the physical hardships, outdoor work is particularly difficult in the summer months with temperatures regularly exceeding 90 degrees Fahrenheit and reach up to 120 degrees in desert regions. And whereas outdoor workers who provide vital resources to Californians during these months face heightened risk for heat illness, smoke exposure, and heat-related death, much of which is related to climate change. And whereas in the last decade, the United States Bureau of Labor Statistics reported 344 worker deaths due to environmental heat exposure, and workplace safety experts believe that the actual number of heat-related fatalities may be underreported or misreported as other causes, such as heart attacks. And whereas employers are now required to protect outdoor workers by providing adequate rest time, water, and shade in the summer. And whereas the City of Palm Desert, upon the initiative of local companies, hosted a successful citywide event to show community appreciation, and an event was extensively covered by news media and successfully raised awareness. And whereas outdoor workers tirelessly dedicate their efforts to maintaining and improving our communities while facing numerous challenges, including exposure to extreme weather conditions, physical exertion, and occupational hazards. And whereas the contributions of outdoor workers often go unnoticed and underappreciated despite their indispensable role in the daily lives of all Californians. And whereas recognition and appreciation of outdoor workers promotes better working conditions, safety, and productivity. Now, therefore, I, Karina Quintanilla, Mayor of the City of Palm Desert, and the entire City Council do hereby proclaim July 15th through 19th, 2024, as Outdoor Worker Appreciation Week in the City of Palm Desert, and encourage all residents to join us in celebrating the contributions to our city. Thank you.
We don't have the entire crew here, but I would assure you that on Monday, we're having a special luncheon for our crew, and not just our streets program, but the entire city that is out there. Code enforcement, facilities, parks, recreation. There's so many different people we need to thank for just, providing the services for our city. So on Monday, I know you're going to be joining us for our luncheon, and we're going to thank them specifically for this, and we'll give them this appreciation to them as well. So thank you for everybody that's out there as well. We have our Public Works or our capital programs team, Public Works inspectors, facilities. There's a numerous amount of people that are out there just doing their job, and we can't thank them enough.
Including CityNet, our new partners that are doing homeless outreach. So
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
we now move on to item 10, City Manager comments.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have two quick items tonight. I would like to ask Lieutenant Porras to come up and provide the council a quick briefing of information that he thinks is appropriate at this point.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council people. I'm sorry, apologize for that. I wanted to bring some attention to some recent crime trends that the city is experiencing, and so that residents of the city don't fall victim. These are crimes associated with subjects approaching people in the public, like in a parking lot. They usually ask you about what kind of jewelry you're wearing or what kind of watch you're wearing, and then through sleight of hand, they'll take them and steal the items without the victim even knowing afterwards. Recently, we had that happened in the north part of the city, and we caught them in Moreno Valley. So I just want to make sure that people are always aware of their surroundings. Scams where the subject will tell members of the public that their money is not safe. They either call you, send you a text, or email and saying, please click the link, call this phone number, and they'll ask you to deposit or withdraw your money and meet me at the corner of First and Second with a large amount of money. Don't ever fall for that. Please always contact your financial institutions to verify that information. And then the third incidents where subjects identify themselves as law enforcement and ask you for money. An example is you may get a phone call saying, "Hi, this is Lieutenant Porras from the Sheriff Department. You have a warrant for your arrest. Please send me $1,000. We don't ask for that kind of stuff. We never do that. So please do not fall victim. If there's an incident that you think is suspicious, give us a call. So all in all, please be aware of your surroundings. Please notify us if there's anything suspicious going on. We have a zero tolerance for this, and we're working hard to make sure these people don't victimize our citizens. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And I would like to take the opportunity as well to introduce our team from CityNet to provide us a quick update on their activities. And my understanding is a quick dashboard on what's been worked on and accomplished recently. So Ivan, I'll turn it over to you to introduce everyone.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Today we have CityNet and we have Mr. Joseph Martin, who's the program regional director. And so he's going to give a quick update on what's been going on with their team.
Good afternoon. It's actually Martin Joseph, but I get that my whole life. So it really is all good. So yes, I'm the Southern California Regional Program Director for CityNet. And I want to just take a few minutes to give you a brief overview of the services that are being provided, but I wanted to start at the beginning and kind of tell everyone about who we are as an organization. So we're a 501c3 nonprofit established in 2003 in Long Beach, California. Right now we have over 240 total employees, and in Riverside County we have almost 40. We currently provide services in 6 counties in California. Our mission is CityNet is committed to breaking the cycle of homelessness in the communities we serve by connecting neighbors experiencing homelessness to transformative care and innovative solutions that lead to housing. And we'll get into some of those innovative solutions in a little bit. Okay, so the service start date here in Palm Desert started in November of 2024. We currently have 2 case managers working in the city. One is with me, Mr. Ray Martinez, and Marilyn Baez is the second part of this wonderful team that's servicing our displaced members in the community. One program supervisor is budgeted. Right now, I am directly supervising the Palm Desert team, and it is an absolute pleasure. Our scope of services includes street outreach, case management, housing navigation, transportation, crisis response, and county-wide collaboration. So with that county-wide collaboration, we use a coordinated entry system called HMIS, which gives us data to show onto our dashboard. So all of Riverside County uses this coordinated entry system, and these are the results so far with CityNet. So in June of 2024, the team interacted with 151 clients. Now, 92 of those clients accepted services. So services is there's a litany of services, whether it's transportation service, whether it's food, whether it's snack packs, whether it's referrals. 92 of the 151 clients actually accepted the support that the CityNet team provided them. We have 3 positive exits. Now, positive exits to us, any exit is really positive. So when we say 3 positive exits, that's 1 exit to shelter and 2 permanent supportive housing exits that Marilyn and Ray have been able to achieve. 10 behavioral health screenings, 5 veterans enrolled, 0 out-of-town requests for service. So no neighboring cities have reached out to the team. 87 snack packs provided. That's the 87 bottom right, the food provisions. So Ray and Marilyn are out there, and that's really a good rapport builder for the individuals that we serve in the community, is being able to provide food and water to kind of break down that barrier to hopefully give the initial support to the client. 11 transportation services, 3 ID vouchers, and the success story is when conducting street outreach, CityNet case managers noticed that many clients tended to refuse services and did not accept anything besides snack packs and water during their first meeting. However, this is how the team builds trust and friendly rapport with potential clients who have grown skeptical of assistance. And that's just kind of narrating what I just said. These are some additional resources that CityNet has applied for and been granted. Now we're working on a distribution plan because we have many cities that we're providing services for, but we secured over $66,000 in emergency food and services programs that helps with food assistance and motel vouchers, on top of $537,000 plus in rapid rehousing dollars. And both of those dollar amounts are to offset contract costs. So this is what we've acquired. It's not going to cost the city of Palm Desert any money to be able to tap into these funds. This will offset some of the current contract dollars that are in our contract. We're hoping to have a client here, but unfortunately he was not able to make it. That's the end of my presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
Questions? No question, but a comment. I happened to run into Ray in the community, and I shared with him that there was a man that I encountered that was asking for money, and I listened to his story, and I asked him if he'd been to the rescue mission. He made a face and said he wasn't interested. I asked him if he's gone to Palm Springs. Same thing, made a face, said he's not going back. I asked, well, what about the Palm Desert team? And he raved and said, the Palm Desert folks are great. They follow up, they follow through, they've helped me, and I wanted to pass along that positive response in the community. You are making a difference, and we get to go to other locations and sites and say, we are addressing the members of the community. We're doing this differently by partnering with CityNet, and I appreciated the use of the word displaced.
Yes.
Because it's not unsheltered, it's not unhoused. I appreciate that word a little better. So I hope that we can keep that in our minds when we talk about our displaced neighbors in the community. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
At this time, we will take item number 11, mayor and council member reports and requests for action. How about we start with Council Member Nestande?
No comments this evening, Mayor. Thank you.
Councilmember Kelly,
Nothing this evening.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Thank you. I have a couple things. At our last meeting, I had to appear virtually. I was out of town on city business, and it was with the Southern California Association of Governments working on the strategy session for transportation and sustainable communities, and trying to work out how we were going to make the best life for Southern California. And Councilmember Kelly also serves on SCAG in this process. And it is really important. It does address air quality and how we get to where we need to go most efficiently. Additionally, the Carpenters Union was brought up last meeting, and I did want to make some comments about it because it's an amazing group of people involved in the Carpenters Union. And probably it's got to be about 7 years ago or 8 years ago, Wendy Jonathan, who then represented us on the Desert Sands Unified School District, and I went on a tour of the facility at Carpenters Union. And Wendy was so impressed, and all of you who may know Wendy know one thing about her. She is tenacious. And from her tenacity grew a program that has been at Amistad High School for the last 3 years, working with College of the Desert. And those students are either dual and or concurrently enrolled, both at Amistad High School and at College of the Desert, learning carpentry. A very useful, we talk about how important the trades are. They are important. And we have students learning them. And we're well into our 3rd year in that program. And we have to thank Wendy for that, because she tackled it head on. So more than 3 years later, here we are. They build tiny homes. They learn in great ways in ways working with the Carpenters Union. And also this morning, and I'm surprised that Councilmember Nastandi didn't mention, we were at the Coachella Valley Rescue Mission, and I'll leave that for the mayor because she was there also.
Thank you. In terms of my report, I wanted to share that for the 4th of July, it was a great experience. We had folks show up a little bit later because it was pretty, not just toasty, it was roasty. And I know that in the end, it was well attended. As a city that is autism certified, it was very important to find additional ways to support our residents. And I think we tried to roll it out a little bit late, but it gave us some ideas of how to improve for next year when we can offer a sensory safe space for our veterans that experience PTSD and our community members that are oversensitized to sound. So I was there at the center. I realized that the fireworks just kind of sounded a little bit like background noise. And at the Civic Center Park, we had foam earplugs that were announced, and some people did pick up. So we do see and recognize that members of the community need a little bit of extra support. So I know that for next year, we can reach out in advance to some of the organizations. This week's Coffee with the Mayor was pretty packed. It was an opportunity to keep bringing in more chairs. I see Gary nodding, more and more chairs. And we had discussions on sustainability, on water. And so thank you to Vanessa for being present and sharing the upcoming session on that. Let's see. Oh, and I learned at the library that you can print up to 10 pages per day. So if you don't have any change on you, or before you had to have coins, now you can print 10 pages per day. So that's a big bonus for folks that go and our students. And I even saw a whiteboard. There was a biochem student working on her master's and taking advantage of that whiteboard to do her homework. And as I said, this is a lot of resources that have reopened, reimagined, re-envisioned, and giving more to the community. And as mentioned, I was joined by Mayor Pro Tem Harnick and Councilmember Nastandi as the rescue mission had the groundbreaking for their new expansion, which will primarily serve women and children. One of the fastest growing rates of displaced individuals are not only seniors, but single moms with children. This will give the opportunity to receive the wraparound services that can help families gain that success. And one of the points that I shared was an expression in Spanish, caras vemos, corazones no sabemos. We can see someone's face, but we don't know their heart. And encourage everyone to share the message of the rescue mission, because you may not know who in your everyday life may be experiencing domestic violence or domestic abuse. And as a survivor myself, I am a big advocate. So with that, I appreciate everyone sharing the work that we've done, whether it ends up in our report or whether it's something we forget to mention with all of the great things that we're doing. I appreciate my peers. Now we move on to non-agenda public comments. This time has been set aside for the public to address the City Council on issues that are not on the agenda for up to 3 minutes. Speakers may utilize one of the 3 options listed on the first page of the agenda. Because the Brown Act does not allow the City Council to act on items not listed on the agenda, members may briefly respond or refer the matter to staff for a report and recommendation at a future meeting. Do we have any online comments?
No public comments at this time.
Thank you. First public comment is from Brad Anderson.
Good afternoon. My name is Brad Anderson. I currently live in the city of Rancho Mirage, and thank you. That 10-page, first 10 pages at the library is a great thing. King County Library up in the Seattle area was doing that 20 years ago, and I'm glad California is catching up. Actually, Rancho Mirage had a public records request a few weeks ago, and the first 10 pages was free. I go, that's odd. So I don't know if that's a new law, but anyway, it's a good thing for people like me that don't know how to copy the first couple pages. So those are wasted. But I just wanted to reemphasize my opinion concerning your study session and allowing public comment. I know we have one avenue, and that's email to participate or have your opinions heard by this counter beforehand. but I think it's just critical, especially the two topics you had today. Because I could easily comment on both, and I think a lot of people could, and that avenue is stripped from people like me. And I think just because you're the only city I know that does that, and I know it's probably a violation. I don't want to push it. A lot of people don't sue over Brown Act stuff, but not that I'm suing. Don't take that literally. I don't want any litigation. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. That is being, that is under consideration, so thank you. Our next speaker is Judy Wilson.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I am Judy Wilson, and I am the Regional Operations Director for Enough Inc. Enough is a new nonprofit based here in Palm Desert with an office on Country Club. And it is, what we want to do here today is ask for interaction with the city as a stakeholder, potentially for what we're doing, in efforts to implement our mission. And our mission is to create a safe and secure environment for children in the schools and the communities regarding the need for safety from the scourge of gun violence. So we seek to supplement the services primarily with a team of volunteers to add value to what the city and the schools and law enforcement are already doing. To accomplish this mission, we propose engaging in activities in support of 3 key initiatives. Initially focused on positively impacting the Coachella Valley first here in Palm Desert, and we hope that it is successful here and becomes a model that we can carry throughout the valley and then beyond. So to accomplish the mission, the 3 initiatives that we will engage in are community engagement and awareness, volunteer-powered surveillance, and advocacy and policy reform. An example of the first, community engagement and awareness, we envision having volunteers staff information booths at local fairs and rallies, providing water to participants and tools to identify a variety of helpful topics, steps to improve gun safety, how to identify potential threats, whom to ask and how to receive help, mental health support, etc. Now, regarding the second one, volunteer-powered surveillance, we plan to recruit volunteers to act as security ambassadors who could provide compassionate, observant presence at community parks, local fairs, playgrounds, school halls, school events like sporting gatherings, wherever large groups of children are. Our target base for the volunteers is a multitude of seniors, of which I'm one, in the Valley, who have experience, wisdom, and energy to contribute to the community. They would be tasked to be friendly, quiet observers of what is going on around them so that they can identify potential problems before they happen. They will be trained by us and by resources that we bring in and equipped with smartphones so that they have access to preset quick dial numbers to resources for assistance should they see anything.
Thank you very much. Your 3 minutes are up, but this is a wonderful, wonderful program. If now we can have Sandra Gray, please. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Sandra Gray, and thanks for allowing me to speak. I wanted to share my experience with a rental property I encountered earlier this year. In February of 2023, I inquired about an apartment advertised for $2,900 per month. Upon visiting the rental The rental agent, Bill, informed me that the price had increased to $3,000. This discrepancy made me reconsider, but after confirming with the manager, Tiffany, that the price was indeed $2,900, I decided to proceed. After securing the apartment, I faced numerous challenges. On moving in day, Bill, the rental agent, refused to show me the unit, forcing me and my moving crew to search for almost an hour. When we finally found the apartment, it was in deplorable condition. Dirty floors, old dishwasher, including other damaged appliances, and unsafe features like a barely attached back door. Despite my efforts to address these issues, Bill responses was dismissive and unprofessional. He even suggested that I had to treat him well to get things done or leave. I contacted his manager, Rachel, who was equally dismissive and rude. She told me to leave if I wasn't happy. The apartment was infested with insects and even rattlesnakes. Despite my repeated request for repairs and pest control, the management response was inadequate. I had to resort to taping up the door to prevent insects from entering. I also discovered that the rental agent were not properly licensed. So sorry, I'm so disturbed, yeah. This coupled with the appalling living conditions left me feeling terrified and helpless. I am pleading for help in resolving these issues and ensuring that no one else is ever to endure such an experience. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to follow up with you as well, and if we can have our city manager address that. Thank you for coming and sharing. I know that must have been very difficult.
Thanks for the invitation. I wonder if someone from staff might make sure that the speaker has contact information for the Fair Housing
Yes.
Department before she goes.
Yes, thank you. Great suggestion. Thank you, Mayor, Council Member. Our next speaker is Jana Kronczynski.
Good evening. Friday last week, Richard Canone informed me that the city flood code of ordinance refers to existing designated flood zones only. Okay. Why on earth would it not refer to any new construction in this current climate? He also said that both contract civil engineer, city engineer, and an independent engineering firm reviewed the drainage plans for refuge and concluded that the drainage meets requirements. We insist that there be a certification of the grading by a licensed land surveyor before City Council approves the final tract map. Kaufman and Broad and Shepherd Lane have never experienced flooding in past 28 years, but we have never had a flood channel or man-made 11-foot high mountain behind our back wall. We do have a water drainage specialist who says we will be flooded with a 3-inch per hour rainfall. Elevating the landscape to the south of Pulte's property by 11 feet was supposedly to solve a drainage problem on their property. But actually it was to save the cost of soil export and one storm lift station. Pulte has created flooding, safety, and privacy issues, as well as loss of views and devastating devaluation of property for the neighboring communities, not to mention emotional distress. The only reason for the mountain behind us is to sell more expensive view homes, and the only reason for the drainage ditch is to capture water from that escarpment. City officials, MSA, Refuge, and Pulte, either by incompetence, negligence, or intention, kept key information pertinent to the raised elevation hidden from the people who could interpret that information. When the danger to the communities was revealed, they showed little interest in addressing concerns. Who will take financial responsibility for future damages? The city, the developer of Refuge, Explore, and the Pulte Group have violated tort law according to the state of California Civil Code 3480 by creating a public nuisance behind both neighboring community walls. Despite the consequences being potentially far-reaching and severe, the city has done nothing but obfuscate for the past 2 years. The integrity of the city in which its citizens choose to live is seriously in question. City governments exist to create order, fairness, and accountability. Non-compliance leads to instability in our community. I respectfully ask City Council to reconsider their mantra of "it has all been approved, nothing can be done."
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. We need to, we reserve the applause until after the meeting. We want to keep the decorum. I know that everyone's excited, but for future items, let's please remember that decorum means we're not clapping. Barbara Wasserkirk, please.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. My name is Barbara Wasserkrug, and I'm a resident of Palm Desert. This is my reminder to Palm Desert and other Coachella Valley residents about my upcoming free informational video presentation titled "The Genetic Takeover of All DNA on this Planet, Including Humans." It is the technocrats' vision of creating new life or engineering life into a purposed, strategic, and goal-oriented direction that leads inevitably to creating Humanity 2.0. Tampering with human mRNA and DNA is the height of arrogance by these so-called scientists who have no understanding of what they are doing. But now, all humans are their guinea pigs. Additionally, this evil plan is part of the United Nations global perspective. The UN, quote, leaps forward in regulating DNA altering technology known as human genome editing to be used as, quote, safe and effective to, quote, benefit all. For more information, come and join us at my free event to learn more about it. The date is tomorrow, Friday, July 12th. The time, 5:30 to 6 for a meet and greet with snacks. 6 to 7 is a video presentation followed by a question and answer period. The location is Desert Cities Baptist Church, 45825 Tierra del Oro in Palm Desert. Please RSVP to me, Barbara Wasserkrug, 760-808-0232. Thank you, and I hope to see you there. We actually have a lot of fun, and it's also very educational and beneficial. I have flyers with me this evening, so if anybody would care to pick one up, I have one. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker, do we have any online in the meet? Okay, thank you. So our final speaker for public comment is Major Anna Margaret Thomas.
Evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for your kind remarks earlier. I'm a retired Army nurse. I live here in Palm Desert. I was able to get a home 7 years ago with my VA benefits. But in 2020, when they established or started to put the wall up, a lot of veterans lost benefits. I'm one of them. My home is now in default and facing foreclosure. But thank God for Joe Biden. He put a moratorium on VA foreclosures. So I'll be in my home until the end of the year. Hopefully at that time, I won't be in a tent like so many other veterans. So I'm thankful that Anise Smith, are you here? Thank you for inviting me to speak and bring it to your attention. I spent 28 years in the Army in a MASH unit. If any of you know MASH units, surgical hospitals. And Anise Smith put me in touch with a gentleman at the library, Ron Heath. And it was wonderful. If you know any veterans that need help, they need to speak with him. He was able to fill out forms for me, make sure all the dots were dotted and the T's were crossed, and it was wonderful. I'm the same age as the president. And at this stage of my life, I'd like to know that I have the backing of the VA. Not just me, but many others. Does anyone have any questions?
I don't have a question, but a comment for you. I'm very glad that you were in contact with Ron. That was going to be a suggestion in looking at all the services, and also with Ivan, who is here, and perhaps he can help direct you to other opportunities, who is here as well. So thank you for sharing your story, for your service. And I know that there will be opportunities within the community. I'm glad that you were able to connect with our local resources, and
thank you.
Hope
Yes.
that we can get some assistance.
Ron is with the Disabled
Department, yeah, Veterans
American
of America.
Veterans.
Mhm.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Having the final of our non-agenda public comments, we move on to item 13, the consent calendar. All matters listed on the consent calendar are considered routine and may be approved by one motion. The public may comment on any items on the consent agenda within the 3-minute time limit. Individual items may be removed by the City Council for separate discussion.
Madam Mayor, city staff is requesting well, before I start, the Housing Commission's meeting, most recent meeting, had to be canceled due to a lack of quorum. And as a result, staff is requesting the removal of item 13N, which is the courtesy patrol for Housing Authority properties. In addition, staff is requesting that item 13L is being brought to the Housing Authority Board as an emergency matter under the Palm Desert Municipal Code Section 2.64.050. Although it's not been reviewed by the Housing Commission, 13I. Although the matter has not been reviewed by the Housing Commission prior to the action by the authority, the change order is requested due to an emergency matter due to concerns a delay in the project at One Quail Place would cause for the residents. Therefore, staff is requesting a finding of an emergency.
And what were those items again? You said
It was
13.
for 13N to be removed and 13I to be considered an emergency.
Thank you.
I was just going to move as requested.
I need to remove item O for a brief question.
I also was looking to pull item O and item P. Do we have any other questions? So a second to forward the balance.
Second.
May we please have the report for item O first?
Just the question.
Madam Mayor.
Sorry, do we have?
We
comments? I
can
didn't
use the
see any
voting
comments.
system this meeting. So if you would like to use the voting system for
Okay.
the balance of the consent.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm Ryan Gaylor, Capital Project Manager.
Oh, I heard from a couple members of the public wondering if we need to spend this money now. I want to invite you to speak to what it might cost us down the road if we don't spend this money now.
With the way that asphalt degrades over time, performing preventative maintenance early can save as much as 4 times the amount. I'm sorry, waiting can cost 4 times the amount of doing a project early. And taking care of the asphalt failures that we have out there, it's a good time to do it now.
Can I add something? On page 665 of the packet and 7 of that item gives abundant information regarding the reasoning behind it. And perhaps if you can, those people who requested that, have them look at that, that graph makes it really easy to understand why it pays to get in front and not delay.
Agreed.
I had the similar concerns from our residents that said, not only do we have to do it all now, but why can't we delay for another RFP? If there was only one that was submitted and they were unresponsive, it seems that it is the city's responsibility, in my opinion, to have that RFP go out again. An additional concern was the wording that the word unlimited is placed in there as an option for expenditures in the budget. And, you know, that, in my opinion, only allows for padding of expenses because there isn't a set cap. There is a second option with the cap, but it is very troubling. I haven't seen it on others and going through where it says unlimited. And that has been a concern with the community. Also, in terms of, does it have to be completed now? Is there a way to split it up further? If one of the concerns was regarding ADA, let's fix ADA if that's the most essential part. The remainder of what is supposed to happen in the park closer to the YMCA or the skate park, residents have felt that that is non-essential. And the concerns have been that where according to the pavement management plan conducted by Omnis Incorporated, they rated the Civic Center Park at a 73.2 out of 100, which according to their report says, quote, road network is very good. So where it is possible that in the future, it will cost more money, everything is going to cost more money. And while we're looking at ensuring that we have the fiduciary responsibility as we're looking at a budgetary shortfall and the proposal for taxes, that we need to be responsible for what we're doing now. Yes, everything will be more expensive down the line. But this is a non-essential as far as many members of the community are concerned. Is that, yes?
Failure to repair asphalt creates greater cost than simply inflation over time. And the chart the Mayor Pro Tem directed our attention to is quite compelling in showing that if asphalt is allowed to deteriorate from satisfactory or fair to very poor or serious, the nature of the work itself multiplies fourfold. So this is not just a case of the passage of time increasing costs. The passage of time changes the nature of what has to be done so as to cause it to be a much bigger project. One thing that Palm Desert has excelled in is keeping services in the satisfactory range to reduce such extreme repair costs. So I'm satisfied that we've heard convincing answers to the questions folks have raised.
I would like to also refer to our agenda packet. This would be page 670 or section 4 of the parking lot PCI report. All of this is strictly for parking lots. My concern is if we are looking at preventive maintenance, when was the last time that you guys drove down Washington? That street, that needs more attention than a parking lot. So this, again, when our residents are saying that there are vanity projects and things that are wants, not needs, the location of this, where it is right outside, honestly, it looks like city employees are going to be the most direct benefit given the proximity. The rest of the park is considered non-essential. Yes, everything is going to be more expensive in the future. I'd love to go back to grocery shopping in the 1990s. Inflation's only going to keep rising, and that is inevitable. Everything will be more expensive. How much more will it cost to fix Washington? How much is it going to cost more today if we were to fix Washington, given how long it has been since it was addressed? So those are the concerns of the community. It is my responsibility to share their concerns. And it's perceived as a non-essential function to execute immediately. And my recommendation is that this go back for an RFP. Yes.
When we talk about the deterioration curve, when you talk about asphalt, when you talk about cement, it is significant. It's not just the natural inflation, it is also the degradation of the asphalt in that time. So you are talking about considerable increase in cost. Additionally, we're talking about drainage systems and what happens with the water when you have the alligator impact on our asphalt. So there is damage to cars and those sorts of things as well. This is something I would hardly call maintaining a city in a good condition as a vanity project. It really is something that needs to be done. And if we want to sit back and allow the continued degradation, the cost will increase. And if we go out for an RFP, there are hard costs associated with an RFP as well. We have somebody who has addressed this, is willing and able, and perhaps at one point we can come back and talk about where Washington is on the rotation of repair, because I know we have a rotation of repair for all of our streets. So that would be good information to have for people who may be concerned about it.
So we had a motion for a remainder of consent, I believe. I would like to move.
I would like to also review item P, if we could.
Well, I had to go back to O still.
Mhm.
When it says non-responsiveness to bids, can you clarify that?
When the bid bond came in, there were multiple problems with the bid bond, such that the city attorney advised that it was not a responsive bid. There was, it came in without a notary on the signature. And it was photocopies instead of originals. And as a practice, we've been advised to reject any type of bid bond that has those conditions.
I see. And what would the cost be to go out for another RFP?
It's primarily the amount of time that it's going to take, and it's going to push us into a different time of the year to do the construction work.
Thank you.
But what would the average cost when the first RFP went out? What was the expense of that RFP?
It's just staff time. There's not a whole lot of expense that goes, we're not photocopying plans anymore. It's electronic.
So if there wasn't a direct quote for this and we're just going to give carte blanche to the person that did it before, where is the estimate of 600,000 coming from if there is not an RFP?
The estimate came from the report that was attached to the staff report.
For the residents that are asking where the 600,000.
All of our
came from.
capital projects, engineering estimates are derived from, and double checked with construction management firms, cost estimating firms. And I just want to correct the record. The 73 number that was quoted earlier is a combined average around the city, not for the parking lot out there. This parking lot is in rough shape. We would not suggest moving it back due to liability issues, trip and fall issues. We know there's issues. We've had them reported, and it continues to degrade. It will cost us much more. We have certain pockets of the year where we can do this work. Otherwise, we're interfering with festivals and that sort of thing. So our timeframes are intermittent throughout the year. I'm not sure that an RFP process is going to accomplish much at this point, given how small the project is, and that's probably the problem here.
Thank you.
So, Mayor, do you want to take these bold items individually then for decision?
I would like exactly that, please.
Then I will move adoption of staff's recommendation for item O.
I will second the motion.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Yes.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Minnis-Standy,
Yes.
Mayor Quintanilla.
No?
Motion passes 3-1.
For item item P, this is to go back and make sure I'm on the right tab here. Item P, authorize an amendment to increase the city's contract with FG Creative for El Paseo Parking and Business Improvement District Marketing Services to $275,000 for fiscal year 2024-25.
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm Thomas Soul, your Public Affairs Manager, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have about this item.
My question, and I have not been able to find it. I know I saw it at one place where there was a discussion on the social media objectives and what has been achieved in terms of the expectation in growth for different social media platforms. And it seemed that it was very minimal, but I can't find where that is. And that kind of is the concern that the community member raised, that in section on page 701, where it says scope of services, it says that the media plan should demonstrate maximum efficiency or of spend and clear ability to measure the return on investment. So how is the ROI measured from an agency where there is no quite fluidity?
So just to clarify, we're not approving the contract. We're only increasing the amount of it. That contract has already been approved. We're in the third year of it. They report statistics every month to the board, and then the board evaluates that.
So has there been a substantial increase? Again, the contract is there, but
Yes.
in looking at, have they been meeting that in order to justify the increase? Again, I've had residents that are coming in and looking at everything with a fine tooth comb, and these are the questions that
So
I'm bringing forward.
Let me clarify that this increase isn't money that goes to FG Creative. The excess money, the fees for FG Creative are not being raised. The money that we're adding to this budget is extra money for media pass-through costs. So we run that through the creative agency so that they can handle all of the booking of the media, but they're literally pass-through costs. And the agency is not allowed to take a commission on those costs. So the extra $25,000 that this is being raised over last year is not money that goes directly to FG Creative. They're not getting paid anymore.
Perfect. Thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate that.
If I may add to that, I am the liaison to that board. And I will assure you, if you ever want to watch people dissect analytics and statistics, that board does it. They look at every cent, and those meetings go a long time just looking at the stats and breaking them down as they're presented. They do their work, and it's an impressive group of people.
Mhm. Also, I'll remind you that this money is not city money. This is money that belongs to the district. It's raised from their fees. So it's not coming from the general fund. It's the board's own money.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. That is it for me.
Move to approve staff's recommendation.
Second?
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Yes.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Nastandi,
Yes.
Mayor Quintanilla.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Then after having selected those, are we now moving the full balance of the rest of them? Since there's
Yes.
nothing else, is anything left to poll or abstain?
No, but we are, the original motion was to move the balance as it was presented with the emergency ordinance, and then pulling, was it O?
Yeah, we're
Okay.
pulling
N.
item N, and the emergency finding is for item 13I.
So to clarify, moving the balance forward with the extraction of the items pulled from staff, items O and P as
No.
already voted on.
N, they are withdrawing
And
N.
N, I and N. Okay. So are we squared away, Mr. Clerk, with everything coming along under the consent calendar?
For the vote, Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
yes.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Nastandi,
Yes.
Mayor Quintanilla.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay. Moving along to item number, here we go, 14, action calendar. The public may comment on individual action items within the 3-minute time limit. Speakers may utilize one of the 3 options listed on the first page of the agenda. First item coming forward, item 14A, approve San Pablo Phase 2 roundabout artwork on San Pablo Avenue and east entrance to College of the Desert. Who has the report for us?
Hi, Mayor and council members. My name is Erica Powell, Public Art Management Analyst in Economic Development. I'm excited to bring forward today Dueling Palms. In 2020, the city released a call for proposals for artwork installation in the roundabout at San Pablo Avenue and San Gorgonio Way. Out of nearly 200 submissions, 2 artists were shortlisted by the Cultural Arts Committee and the City Council: Kyle Absalom with Dueling Palms and Donald Gialinella with Sunburst. After public comment, Sunburst was chosen for the San Pablo Avenue and San Gorgonio location. However, the community and the Cultural Arts Committee proposed the idea of installing Dueling Palms in the roundabout here at the entrance of College of the Desert. Dueling Palms is envisioned as a red abstract metal palm tree as seen on screen, originally 32 feet long, 14 feet high, and 9 inches wide. For this roundabout, the artist is exploring a 20% reduction for this roundabout for improved visibility. Updated renderings will be supplied to the city, and approval will be supplied by the city's Public Works team. Once installed, ongoing maintenance, including cleanings and periodic repainting, will be handled by the city's art maintenance contractor. The project total of $300,000 will be funded by the public art budget. This project will not use general fund monies. In conclusion, this installation of Dueling Palms represents a significant enhancement to our community's public art landscape, aligning with the city's strategic plan and commitment to enriching our cultural heritage. Today, staff is seeking your approval as included in the staff report. Thank you, and I'm here for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? I want to thank you and everyone that is part of the Cultural Arts Committee. It was a long process. It was a long selection. And for the community, this was a wonderful sense of dynamics, emotions, and part of the infinity symbol that goes on there, where he said that that was part of hoping that Palm Desert as it moves forward, and the palm trees representing the communities as well. And so thank you for that. And let's see where we've got
I'll
items.
move to approve.
We do have a public comment.
Oh, excuse me.
Do we have public comment online for this item?
No raised hands, Madam Mayor.
Okay. For item 14A, Mr. Brad Anderson, please.
Great, thank you. Brad Anderson. I currently live in the city of Rancho Mirage. Travel through your city often. I have friends over here in this retirement assisted living, so I'm here often. My concerns are just the enormous cost for this one piece of artwork, and that's my only issue. I have issues with roundabouts too, being as visible or see-through as possible, just for the safety aspect. And I understand this art piece was constructed more or less for that purpose. But I just wanted to voice my concerns. We're talking over 100,000 easily, 170,000, 169,000 plus, and ongoing costs for lighting and so forth. So that's my issue. And I think other pieces could have been selected at a cost savings. I know art isn't a cost saving aspect, but I am worried because the city and the finances that you have on the horizon, you should be looking at items like this. I know there's a whole different budget aspect, but that's my issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any further deliberations, comments from, then I will entertain a motion.
To approve.
Second.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick.
Yes.
Councilmember Kelly.
Yes.
Councilmember Nistandy.
Yes.
Mayor Quintanilla.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Item 14B, approve an amendment to contract number C41770 to extend the term and increase the contract amount with the County of Riverside Animal Department Services. Who will be bringing this report forward?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Richard Canoni, Director of Development Services. The item there's essentially two related requests this afternoon. The first is increasing the contract amount for last fiscal year to essentially align with the budgeted amount that was approved. When this contract was initially approved 4 years ago in 2021, it was the contract amount established was for $350,000, and that amount carried over each subsequent year. If you recall from last year and even the year prior, we've always brought forward an amendment to align with the budgeted amount that was approved, given that this is a reimbursable contract. And so really the action that we're asking related to this one is to just align that contract amount with the budgeted amount. The total budget amount, we had an adjustment at the mid-year, was $380,000. I would like to mention, though, that looking at our current numbers, we have invoices through May of this year, and we're at about roughly $302,000. So we will not hit that full amount, that 380 amount, but we just want to leave that in there just because we don't know the exact amount. But again, it is a reimbursable contract, so any funds that are not expended fall back down to the general fund for next year, unallocated. Our last month's invoice was about $30,000, and so we're anticipating probably to see that again for the month of June. But it is substantially less than the amount we had the prior year. I think our actual costs were $372,000, if I'm recalling correctly. So we are actually seeing a decrease in our overall numbers. The reason it fluctuates again is for sheltering services, and I'll get into some of those numbers here shortly. The second related action, if you recall from the study session in March, this last fiscal year was our last year of that 3-year contract, and we were waiting for a new contract with Animal Services at Riverside County. They are in the process of conducting a fee analysis, and we're not ready to roll that out, but indicated that they want to make sure they take their time as well as meet with all of the municipalities that they serve so that our input is given. And so what they've done is brought forward or proposed a one-year amendment to this existing contract that essentially expired in July. And so what we're asking or recommending is that we approve that contract amendment for 1 year. If you recall, the money that we estimated for our next budget year is $400,000. The county is estimating our contract to be $380,000. It is, their estimates are typically low, but what we're asking is for a contingency of $20,000 be set aside for this contract. Again, we're not asking for additional funds because the $400,000 was what was requested as part of the original budget. One other option we wanted to bring forward was the mobile spay and neuter option. Especially now that we're starting to see a reduction. Hopefully that continues in our costs for sheltering. But we wanted to really look at two possible considerations. First being issuing an RFP for spay and neuter services to cover a portion or all of the costs for that. The second, which would be the one that staff would recommend, is to work with DAS or Department of Animal Services to put together one of the mobile service events in the contract amount. In the contract for services, it's about $3,000 for one event. It includes 3 clinical staff and 1 veterinarian. Based on demand, what we'd like to do is bring those results back and then really look at whether we want to continue to do additional spay and neuter mobile clinics as well as microchipping either quarterly or semi-annually, but we would at least like to have some data about the number of individuals that attended it and bring that back at a later date. Some other contract modifications that they've included, they've really memorialized what a current practice is right now. The administrative proceedings, if there's an animal bite or stray or a stray animal or a barking complaint, while it really was supposed to be Riverside County, we've always taken that on those administrative proceedings. One, it provides us much more control over our overall community, and this is just memorializing that in the contract. The other is an increase in the dog license fee that they retain. If you recall, at that March study session, we had recommended increases in our license fees. We were waiting to bring that item forward until we understood where the county was with this contract. So we're anticipating bringing that a resolution forward at the August 22nd meeting for consideration to increase those license fees. Additionally, there are some new items that they did add to this one-year contract extension. For emergency calls, they did add venomous snakes and dead animals to the list. In addition, they've agreed to do quarterly reports furnished to the city manager or designee, detailing all of the field services for that quarter. If you recall, that was one of our recommendations that we had back in March to really understand where those strays were being picked up and what those field service, what the field service officer was doing actually within the city, since we have one designated to us. And then in addition, based upon reasonable notice, they do offer the ability for the city to inspect any facility or records to verify that data that they reported is in fact accurate. One other item that I wanted to bring up, we're continuing to expand our GIS capabilities. While we would love for our animal control officer that's assigned to us to do something similar to this, it's something that we would like to do at least in the next series of contracts. This is something we've done with our business licenses, but we have our GIS analyst that's in development services has put together an app for us that geolocates things for our code officers in the field. And so ideally, when a stray is picked up, they could use this app. We would be able then to geolocate where those animals are being picked up, but also understanding if they are spay or neutered, or if an animal, a stray, is picked up, if it was microchipped and returned to that owner. And so what we'd like to do then is be able to start to look at that visually and understand if there's a certain area where we're seeing more animals picked up so that we can then target some of our programs, whether it be sending out a sort of a marketing splash to that area, or really focusing if we decide to continue to do the mobile spay and neutering or microchipping to really bring maybe that bus to that area if it is in fact such a large number of animals. So that's just, again, something that we're continuing to work on so we have better data for our decisions. I wanted to also just give another update. We have, if you recall, we had provided information. This is just an update of a couple slides I had from the March study session. We have seen a significant increase in the number of animals, 107% increase. So July through February, there were a total of 145 dogs and cats that were in, strays that were brought to the shelter. March through May, so just those 3 months, we had 155. So we had a significant number of animals brought in the last 3 months. Maybe good news is the average number of days that those animals are staying actually has been reduced from five to 4. This just gives you the breakdown of the number of animals. Again, I really focused on cats and dogs. They also have birds and wildlife that sometimes are included, but those not really, these are the larger numbers. But what we're starting to see, at least in this fiscal year, is that the number of dogs are starting to get much closer to the number of cats, where the previous years it was usually around 30%. Now we're starting to see 40, 45% more dogs being brought to the shelter, at least for this fiscal year. So again, we're not sure why, but these are those things that we're continuing to try to understand the data and then see if there's a program or something that we can adjust to accommodate and bring those numbers down. And so with that, our recommendation, and so I kind of broke these up just so they're easier to follow. The first recommendation, again, it relates to last fiscal year, and it's just aligning the contract amount with the budgeted amount of $380,000. And then for this fiscal year, the recommendation would be to approve that 1-year contract extension for an annual amount of $380,000, and then authorize the Director of Finance to set aside a contingency amount of $20,000 for this contract, subject to city manager approval for additional fluctuations in services, to include $3,000 for spay and neuter bus service. So again, that $400,000 was budgeted, so it's not additional money that we're requesting. It's just how we're separating. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? I have a lot of questions on this. I am chair of the Animal Services Board, and there have been an alarming amount of questions that have been asked. Do we have any idea if, as of today, there has been any fee study that has been provided? Because the director, Aaron Geddes, said that it would be provided in July.
We have not received it at least I have not received it as of today.
And do we know how many or how are they calculating the number of days of animals in the shelter? Did they share with you how many of them were not there because they were adopted versus how many of them were killed?
We do have those numbers. I don't have that. I don't have the full breakdown, but we can put that together. I do know we had some numbers that we had provided regarding, at least for this calendar year, of the number of animals that have been euthanized.
I appreciate, yes.
We did have a late answer to questions submitted to staff, which indicated that so far this year, 20 animals have been euthanized. 16 were deemed to suffer from untreatable conditions, and 4 were deemed unadoptable because of biting.
The biting is understandable. as mentioned on the committee, a lot of members of the community have come and highlighted that according to the County Department of Animal Services, they have 17,000 animals, which is statistically impossible given their capacity. The behavior issues, they are labeling and miscategorizing animals that come in, and they refuse to provide the criteria of what they consider adoptable, unadoptable, and too sick to care for. So there are a lot of concerns with this. As mentioned, I appreciate the GIS. That's a lot of great data. Has there been consideration to not only have our field employees to have scanners, but also have public works, or that the fire station has them? Because the data has shown that animals that run away, that usually are caught and snatched up within 6 blocks of their home. There have been people present at these meetings that said, I was gone for the weekend. They picked up my cat on a Friday. By the time I got home on Monday, I checked my message. I went there and my animal had already been euthanized. Well too early before the date that they are required to hold them. And that is a concern. Has there been any discussion on increasing? I think they're only $10 each. Has there been a discussion on increasing the number of staff that has access?
There has not, just because we have the animal control officer assigned to the city, and that individual, at least in my discussions with Pedro, has been very, very responsive when we do have a stray or an animal needs to be scanned. So we just did not see it as a necessity or wanting to really put a lot of the individuals at risk just if they have not dealt with a stray animal.
Absolutely. But, I'm just thinking if sometimes there's a friendly animal that does come by right now in the heat and distress, I think that would be a potential solution to preventing animals for going to the shelter. There are a lot of concerns whether it's a no-kill shelter is what they're determined, which requires 90% adoption rates and no more than a 10% euthanasia rate for animals that were in that sense too injured, too sick, or as mentioned, a public safety issue if they have bitten anyone. But the failure to comply with the Hayden Act and also the county mandate, which states that any animal that is to be adopted out must be spayed or neutered, is not being upheld. In fact, the director has stated on record, not only during our meetings, but also in the media. So I feel that we, by continuing to say we're going to keep giving you more money without more detailed reporting and accountability, because of course they're going to put their best foot forward. I've seen the happy little reports that they would provide until we started asking more questions. With the spay and neuter bus, I've been asking for that for some time, so thank you for that. I would encourage that the $2,000 that has been allocated as a line item to reimburse people for fees for vaccinations, et cetera, since that's been underutilized, can that be switched over to help pay for part of that? Or exploring anything with, like PetSmart or Petco to publicize? Is that going to be a consideration?
I think that any of this is on the table right now. We're talking about cleaning up the contract. If the council wants to do a study session and kick around some of these ideas that you're bringing up, that's fine. Staff has not been out actively looking for ways of expanding this program because we didn't know where the city council was on the issue right now. We're happy to organize a study session and have a conversation with you if you like.
Yeah, I think that is something that our residents deserve. There's a lot of animal lovers, and that bears a lot of heavy responsibility when we're dealing with people's furry family members. So yes, I would wholeheartedly request a much more detailed study session to follow up on the matter. And I do think the minimum that we can, as required, I think we had that conversation. The minimum amount of time that we are required, which then protects our employees, would be the 1 year.
So do I understand correctly, that you're suggesting we adopt staff's recommendation and concurrently explore some of the additional possibilities that you're suggesting? That strikes me as sound, and I applaud the recommendation to include $3,000 for the spay neuter bus. And I love staff's resourcefulness in trying to learn more about how to make that service effective. I know, Mayor, that you're involved with the extensive collaboration that's happening among nonprofit groups that serve animals and people who love animals. So we want to make sure that what we do is in sync with the scheduling and strategizing that those groups are doing collaboratively. So an RFP at this point would not make sense to me. It does make sense to commit to the spay neuter bus, which would be an excellent way of supporting and participating with the collaboration that's occurring.
Okay. And I agree and support that it is very important for us to have this spay and neuter bus. And I also liked staff's recommendation to focus efforts on where strays are being found and picked up, because perhaps we can see maybe there's a couple of spots or people that are contributing to the increase in the dog population, for example. So I think it is important to focus efforts to see if there's concentration areas that we can focus on.
And I was, we've all heard the reports in the news raising questions about the county shelter. So I'm relieved to see that, at least insofar as Palm Desert is concerned, 300 animals have been sheltered in the most recent period. And the number euthanized was, as I reported before, 20. So that's beneath the 10% that was suggested as some way of judging whether the untreatable label is being used appropriately. So while there's some relief in those statistics, I understand and appreciate that many questions are being asked for which we don't have answers. So this is a starting point, and we can build on the starting point. So with that understanding, I move staff's recommendation.
I would like to add one additional point. On August 1st, we will have the next meeting at 9:30 in the morning at the Animal Campus. So I would love for you to be there, as well as any members of the community, to give public comments. So it's August 1st at the Coachella Valley Animal Shelter, 9:30.
I'd like to second the motion, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Yes.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Nastandi,
Yes.
Mayor Quintanilla.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Moving on to item 14C, resolution opposing the Desert Healthcare District's proposed new hospital lease agreements non-compete provision, which restricts taxpayer funds and elected boards over the next 30 years. who will be presenting?
I can certainly provide just a brief overview. This is in direct conformance with your study session today. If the council would like to have a letter formally sent to Desert Healthcare District objecting to the non-compete provision and the proposed contract with Tenet. This resolution would accomplish that, and it will formulate the main points of the letter to the healthcare district. I won't read all 11 reasons there, but it basically the lease would restrict the activities of the district within district boundaries is the major policy question, as well as the lease would restrict the use of taxpayer funds within the district boundaries and require tenants' prior written approval, which tenant may withhold at its sole and absolute discretion. That really is the underpinning policy issue and opposition to this for this resolution to be built upon. So I'll leave it up to the council if you have any other questions. However, all of the rationale for laying out for the letter are within the resolution.
Do we have any comments, questions?
The only thing I would add is the revised non-compete clause that was distributed to us today totally fails to address the concerns cited in the resolution. Because while it strikes one offensive clause, it goes on to prohibit financial support to any other acute care hospital within the district's boundaries. So hopefully the communication can be updated to acknowledge receipt of this and to make clear that it does not cure the problem.
We can
Any
do
other
that.
comments or questions? Perfect. At this point, we have 2 public comment cards. Do we have any comments online?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay. First comment is from Brendan Steidle. Is it Steidle or Steidle? Steidle, thank you.
Honorable Mayor and council members, my name is Brendan Steidle, resident of Palm Springs and marketing manager for Desert Care Network. I'm speaking today as a representative of Desert Regional Medical Center. We question this council's consideration to send a letter to the Desert Healthcare District and adopting a resolution regarding the proposed lease between the district and Tenet's Desert Care Network as it relates to the proposed non-compete clause. Your staff report on this item references a provision in the current lease that has been in place for 27 years. The new language of the proposed lease was just posted on the district's website today. It's not provided to you in your staff report. This new language clarifies the district's ability to continue its support of nonprofit organizations to expand access to healthcare across the valley. The language also ensures the long-term stability of Desert Regional Medical Center. This language is not unique. Other hospital districts, such as Grossmont and Fallbrook, have similar covenants in their leases with their operators. Why? This type of provision serves to protect the public hospital owned by the healthcare district to ensure it remains viable to serve the people of our community. The healthcare district has a fiduciary duty to protect its interest in the hospital they own while a lease remains in place. Revenue from the new lease, in total approximating $650 million, will allow the district to continue to provide grants to community organizations and fulfill its mission to serve the healthcare needs of the entire community. The new language changes none of that. In addition to the lease payments, Tenet Desert Regional will be funding the state-required seismic retrofit work. This cost is currently estimated to exceed $220 million. Not a penny of that will come from the healthcare district, nor will it come from the taxpayers of this district. Again, no taxpayer money or district bonds will be required for this work. Our Desert Care Network serves the largest amount of uninsured and underinsured people in our valley. We pride ourselves on providing care for all people in an equitable manner, regardless of insurance or income level. The current lease between the district and tenant began in May 1997, and it saved a hospital from a financial crisis. And since then, we have made important investments in the healthcare of our community, including establishing the only Level 1 trauma center, allowing the district to turn its focus to the $100 million in grants it has provided to nonprofits in our community. This is an example of a successful public-private partnership that we would like to continue. Again, we request you decline any action to submit a letter or to pass a resolution until you have reviewed the proposed provisions that are now available to the public on the district's website in order to make an informed decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Brad Anderson.
Good afternoon, Brad Anderson. I currently live in the city of Rancho Mirage. I just wanted to come out and speak on this topic. I've made many attempts to share my opinions at the workshops of the Desert Healthcare Districts over a number of years. So I've been involved with this for a long time. I'm in total support of you constructing a letter and sending it to all the district board members, including the long-term established CEO that's now in that position. Meaning he's been with the district for a long time and he just got promoted. There's so much to go into. Yes, the previous speaker was saying that this is common contract language. It probably is, and I'm sure it probably is. But again, this contract or the Desert Health or tenant this is different because they're going to purchase this hospital at the end of this lease. And that's just one aspect. And the grant making ability of the Desert Healthcare District, when tenant leased this hospital in 97, I believe, they saved that Desert Healthcare District from bankruptcy, or whatever that would be for them. And we're right back where we were back then. It's just poor management of that district, and the grant making abilities were extraordinary. It was too much. And I want to emphasize that my opinion is that Desert Healthcare District doesn't need to exist any longer. They need to get out of the game because there's ample healthcare opportunities in this desert now. The East Valley is another story all by itself, including Imperial County, which they just combined 3 healthcare districts, I believe. So I think the main purpose or the main, the focus on is the Desert Healthcare District and eliminating that altogether. This area will be fine. Let's sell the hospital now and just dissolve that district. And this is why I'm thinking of it. I have issues with the Desert Healthcare District legal team, one person. And I think that's where all this contract language comes from. I think they're probably underrepresentative for what the dollar amount that district does, and they need to seek better legal counsel. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any chance that there has been before we move on, any additional public comment that may be online?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no additional public comments, do I have any comments from my peers?
I'd be happy to. The Desert Healthcare District, many of you may or may not know, was started in 1948. And it was formed by the people of this area who are west of Cook. And it was formed so there would be adequate and accessible and quality medical care for the people who lived here because there was not that care existing at the time. This district was formed by the people. It was developed by these taxpayers who are taxing themselves. And it's funded by those people. To think that we would put in what was called common language doesn't make it good language, it makes it common. And we know a lot of things that are common are just not that good. to tie the hands of Desert Healthcare for 30 years, to tell them what they can do and who they can help with our taxpayer money is wrong. There are people who need help. They need quality medical care, and that's why Desert Healthcare District is there. And to be so short-sighted as to make this about whether it's Tenet or whether it's Eisenhower, it may be some future hospital. We don't know. That's not what it's about. It's about making sure that our taxpayer dollars that we voted to tax ourselves take care of the people who need help, not tie the hands of Desert Healthcare and tell for 30 years in the future, for everything we don't know what's going to happen in 30 years. It's wrong. It is short-sighted, and I support us going forward with the resolution.
And I would just add, Mayor Pro Tem, that I agree with you. We cannot tie the hands of the Desert Healthcare Network. And I don't know if that was a motion.
You have comments? Okay.
I'll call it a motion.
Before we take a vote, I believe that part of the consideration is just because the language has been there in the past and they chose not to use it, doesn't mean that we want to keep that door open to allow them to do so in the future. We did receive something at the very last moment. And from what it looks like, at least to me, it doesn't seem like there's too much change. You can hide it in the legalese, right? You can hide it in the lawyer language, but at the end of the day, the facts remain that this would allow a substantial limitation. And as Mayor Pro Tem has mentioned, there are plans for additional hospitals. The area will keep on growing. The Inland Empire is one of the 5 fastest growing regions in the country. We cannot allow a private entity, a for-profit entity, who has reduced the quality of working conditions for their nurses to continue to operate as they have by holding Desert Healthcare District hostage because they can't afford to pay for their seismic retrofitting. So I am in agreement with my peers that there are substantial concerns with the non-compete clause.
Amen. There's nothing left to be said except I agree. So I think we have a motion and a second.
May I ask who was the second?
Nastandi.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Yes.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Nastandi,
Yes.
Mayor Quintanilla.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Moving along. Item 14D, consideration for approval of a portion of public right-of-way, Explorer Drive, is exempt surplus land pursuant to Government Code Section 54221. Who will be bringing this together for us?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council. Again, for the record, Richard Canoni, Director of Development Services. Just a little bit of background related to this item. If you recall, back in really 2021, there was startup property, 128 acres, that went through went through that process, and there were 3 real developments that came about: the Montage development, the Refuge specific plan, and then Vitalia. At one point, the Vitalia, from what I understand, was part of that Refuge, but because it was an affordable housing development, it ended up kind of pulling out of that and moving forward on its own. As a result of that, in June of 2022, the successor agency approved a purchase and sale agreement to the city for public right-of-way, approximately 1.32 acres, so that there would be access to that Vitalia site coming off of Gerald Ford, as shown here on Exhibit B from that deed. And then in November, on November 17th, that same year, Council approved the Refuge specific plan and tentative track map for that approximate 78 acres. And I won't go into the details of that specific plan. But what I do want to touch on is, as part of that specific plan, there was a traffic calming measure that was put in place that included a curvature of the proposed future extension of what is now Explorer Drive. And so what that did is it resulted in creating an excess portion of right-of-way, approximately 0.13 acres, as you see highlighted in yellow, outlined in red on the map. And so that is a section of right-of-way that is now no longer needed due to the curvature of that road. And then so the action that we're requesting is sort of what I'm calling the step one, is to declare that 0.13 acre surplus and find that it does meet for an exemption related to the SLA process. And then the step two is we would transmit then that action to the state. In addition to that, there are agreements with Pulte that would need to be put in place for the maintenance of the infrastructure obligations on that 0.13 acres, which would remain in effect until the city would convey that land at a future date. So that was the intent all along, with the sales price based upon the prior land sale to the city from the successor agency. And so I know we have a final map that's on the agenda, I think after this item. But again, this action is needed regardless of any action on that final map. But what it really does is it does not require any ownership obligations if we were to not take this action, because then we would be an owner to that map. And so what we're asking to do is declare it surplus and find that it meets the exemptions as provided here on the screen and in the attached resolution. Just for clarification, the exemptions that we do feel that it meets is it's less than 1/2 acre. It's not contiguous to a state or local agency property used for open space or lower moderate income. And it does not meet any of the characteristics under Government Code Section 54221 F2. Just for the record, what those characteristics are: it's not in a coastal zone, it's not in a state park, it's not part of the Lake Tahoe region, and it's not on the National Register of Historic Places. So with that, staff recommends adopting the resolution as provided. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Would you like to address the change in vote?
Correct. I wanted to announce for Councilmember Nastandi, she is required to recuse herself due to the proximity of the project to her home, and that's why she has left the room.
Having heard the staff report, do we have any questions for staff for clarification? Do we have any public comments?
No public comment, Madam Mayor.
Okay, no public comments. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second?
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Yes.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Mayor Quintanilla.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0. And for the record, that's with Nastandi being recused and Truby absent.
Our last item on the agenda. Thanks for bearing with us, folks. Item 14E, adopt a resolution approving final tract map number 38434-1 and agreements. Who comes before us to give this report?
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. Carlos Flores, Principal Planner, here to present on the final map 38434-1. So I wanted to open up this presentation for anyone in the audience, anyone watching on Zoom or in the future, that city staff as well as council and other members have received numerous communication and questions on this project, on project approvals, code requirements, and activity on the site. Staff has conducted inspections on the site. We responded to questions via email and talked on the phone encounter with numerous residents. But I did want to take this opportunity to say that staff is working to centralize a lot of these comments and questions to make sure that we respond in a timely manner and that the right person is responding. So I'm suggesting at this time, my email is there on the screen, cflores@palmdesert.gov. Easy enough. It's easier enough if someone sends us emails to one location and that we can respond appropriately. In addition to that, we have set up appointments to discuss the project with multiple residents, and will continue to offer in-person, phone, or virtual meetings with really any resident wanting to discuss the project further. So with that said, want to provide a little bit of, for informational purposes, what the difference is between a tentative map versus a final map. So a tentative map, approval of a tentative map is discretionary in nature. It requires findings and is subject to reasonable conditions. Discretionary means that the city is granted police power under the Subdivision Map Act to deny the map if they believe it will place the residents of the subdivision or the immediate community or both in a condition dangerous to their health or safety. The tentative map is the last discretionary approval required for a map in the map process. The final map, which is what you're considering today, is a ministerial action. What that means is that it must be approved if it is in substantial conformance with the approved tentative map. What the final map does is it converts a tentative map from a conceptual approval into a legal subdivision of land. That's how parcels are created, essentially. It is the action that establishes how many lots will be created, what shape they will take, and what rights-of-way and easements will be dedicated. The review criteria for these final maps, as staff reviews it, per our municipal code, the city engineer, when they review this, they shall submit the report to City Council within 20 days following the satisfactory submission of the final map and all of the documents required. What they are reviewing is to ensure that the subdivision as shown is substantially the same as it appeared on the approved tentative map, so that the tentative map approval is the same as what is shown in the final map, that all of the code requirements applicable at the time of the approval of the tentative map have been complied with, and that the map is technically correct with all local, state, and federal guidelines. Our code requirements, so we have a list of requirements within our municipal code. Some of the requirements that we require as part of the final map is a subdivision improvement agreement with bonds, deeds, easements, certificates, an engineer's estimate of improvement costs, notes, coordinate systems, and establishing and making sure it has all the lots, streets, monuments, and certificates. So for the final map city council action, so per our code, the city council shall approve the map if it is determined to be in conformity with the requirements of our municipal code and the conditions of approval of the tentative map. So that includes that the public improvement plans are approved by the city engineer, the subdivision agreement between the city and the subdivider is executed, and that security bonds are posted by the subdivider for the public improvements. So some history on the map in front of you today. The first approval for this project happened in August in 2022. At that time, tentative map 38434 came together with the specific plan referred to at the time, the refuge specific plan. So this was a specific plan. The approval authority on that is the city council, and a tentative map was attached to that. So the city council was the ultimate authority on that. That came after the planning commission recommended approval of it, as well as a community meeting that happened for this project. Subsequent to that, so just about 1 year later, the applicant proposed a revision to the tentative map, which was approved by our planning commission in September of 2023. The planning commission is delegated authority as the final approval on tentative maps within our city. When that map came forward, would it change from the 2022 version? It reduced the number of lots from 339 to 332. It changed the circulation along the refuge single-family home development, and it added about 2 acres of open space and retention area, as well as increasing the capacity area of the retention basins. And it had some modifications to the pad elevations of the homes. Subsequent to that, after September 2023, there was another revision to the map that was only on pad elevations. This was reviewed and approved at a public hearing from the Planning Commission. No changes to the map itself, to any site layout were done at the time. It was specifically some changes to pad elevations, mostly focusing on some increases on the northwest corner of the site, whereas the perimeter areas mostly decreased. So track 38434, the effective tentative track map that is on file and approved today, which is the latest version, the version of March 2024. What that includes is 332 single-family detached units. Again, those pad elevations were revised from the original approvals. It has about 20 lots, about 16 acres of open space and retention area, including a 45-foot landscape buffer on the south, east, and west perimeters of the project. It has one lot for a future condominium project. That lot is between where the Vitelli apartments are today and the single-family development to the south. The other change that occurred from 2022 to the March version is on the retention basins in particular, whereas our code requirement and the original approval requires for the retention basins to have a capture of a 100-year storm event. They increased the capacity of the retention basins to be able to account for a 500-year storm event. Sorry, what that means in some terms is that a 100-year storm is a storm event that has a 1% chance of happening, whereas a 500-year storm is about a 0.2% chance of happening. So it increased the capacity of those storms to account for more capacity in those basins. So again, touching a little back on resident concerns. So back in April, a rough grading permit was issued for the site. Subsequent to that, there were a lot of communication from residents and concerns focusing on three main topics: pad elevations of the site, drainage on the site, and the construction activity itself. So we received a lot of communication from residents, and the city held a community meeting on June 25th. We also set up the refuge website. So again, anyone watching or listening, it's a hopefully pretty easy URL to get to. It's just palmdesert.gov/refuge. This is a website where we have all the project history, as well as this interactive tool that's shown here on the screen. What this is an up-to-date and interactive map that shows inspections that happen on the site with accompanying photos. The photos are dated as well. So you're able to click on those blue icons there and see photos that were taken and what date they were taken. This website and this page, is meant to be updated throughout the life of the project, including information as it's happening today and any meeting like today, as well as future inspections and activity. So again, during the community meeting, we heard a lot of the same concerns that we heard before and after on construction activity itself, the noise, damage to homes that residents were concerned about, dirt in pools, access to the site, hours of construction, and refueling activity. So during and after the meeting, the home developer Pulte, they had some response to the concerns. They changed their construction site access. So they were previously accessing the site off Jubilee Lane, which is through a residential neighborhood. They changed this to be off Gerald Ford Drive. They added an additional water truck to have more capabilities to control for dust mitigation. They relocated their staging areas. So there's a lot of complaints on the water trucks and the staging of their trucks out there. So they moved it further away from residents, and they added additional dust control measures. Additionally, the Pulte team has provided the city a Pulte action plan, which is posted on that website. They have a lot of slides outlining different ways that they have responded to concerns and additional measures they're taking. A few that we want to point out is that they have an email and phone number that they're providing for resident complaints and claims. They mentioned during the community meeting that they will listen to resident claims of damage to their properties or dirt and review on a case-by-case basis whether they're able to assist them in cleaning up or dealing with those damages. Staff is making sure that Pulte will provide biweekly updates to the city on response to these concerns and logging all of it. The Pulte team also provided pad certification for all of the lots on the perimeters. So this includes the lots on the south and the east. They also offered homeowners that they would go and certify any of their lots because of concerns that the pad elevations aren't consistent with the approved plans. Additionally, they have in the action plan outlined that they're willing to add more landscaping in the buffer areas on the south and east and conduct an additional community meeting when that landscaping comes forward. Because the landscaping in those buffer areas is still subject to a final landscape plan. And at that point, they're saying they would add additional landscaping and have a community meeting. So drainage was and is one of the biggest causes of concerns for the residents. And so the response with the Pulte team and with staff review as well, one of the things we wanted to highlight was in the pre-development conditions, so before any development going on there in its native state, 2/3 of the site drain to the south and the east in the current development. So about the south 2/3 of the site in rain events, the natural drainage is for it to go to the south and the east. With the development plan, with the drainage plans that the developer has submitted and were approved, the development would drain to the north. The plan for the drainage, again, is for everything to move north away from the residents. Again, reiterating that the retention basins on the newest map will capture a 500-year storm, which is an improvement from our city requirements as well as the 2022 plan. The city engineer, as well as an independent third-party engineering firm, review the hydrology plans to confirm that the development would drain properly. So the map in front of you today is, again, final track map 38431-1. It is a phased portion of the track map. This is allowed through condition of approval of the tentative map 21. What this first phase includes is what's shown here on your screen. That is 135 single-family residential lots, 10 public street and infrastructure lots, 11 open space and retention lots. It omits the access right-of-way portion of Lot A, so the item you just heard before you of that 0.13 acre site. It does not include that. It does include an emergency access easement through the site to the north, the future condominium site. So I'm going to run through the rest of the next slides are bear with me as I go through them. I want to kind of highlight what I'm about to go through. One of the main reviews that city staff does on a final map is ensuring that all of the conditions of approval that were placed on a tentative map have been complied with. These are generally divided in 3 sections. The first one being planning, so planning staff, so myself, I review all the conditions of approvals in a sense assigned or drafted by me that they're compliant with. We have our land development engineering team, so the city engineer as well as engineering staff and the city surveyor reviews those conditions to make sure that they're compliant with the conditions and comply with the Subdivision Map Act. And then there's conditions of approval that the fire department placed and needs to make sure that they comply with. So here on the screen are the 4 conditions of approval that were placed on the last version of the map. I'm not going to go word by word on every single one, but there's a couple of them that are boilerplate in nature. Some of them, or the first one in particular, essentially ensuring the final map is consistent with the entitlement plans. The second one is about the pad elevations, again, confirming the pad elevations that are approved. That is what's on this map. Nothing canon is changing on there. The fourth one references that all the conditions of approval included in a previous resolution, since again, this went through 3 different approvals, shall be adhered to. So the Planning Commission Resolution 2841 is the one that has the substantial amount of conditions on this project. Again, going through all of them, the main takeaway is this is the exercise the city staff goes through to ensure that all of the conditions of approval have been complied with before it can come forward to city council. So you got making sure it's not expired, making sure that everything is consistent, that they have acknowledged all the conditions of approval, the phasing of the project is done correctly, establishment of a homeowners association. The other thing to keep in mind on these conditions of approval is that since this is a phase map, for the subsequent phase of this map, these conditions of approval would and will still apply. This one highlighted here is about pad elevations. So there was a lot of talk early on from the beginning part of this project on pad elevations for this project. So from the beginning, city staff had conditions above and beyond are the code requirements to make sure that any revisions to pad elevations had to be reviewed not only by the director, but he has opportunity to push it to our planning commission at any point, especially on those perimeter lots. It also provides triggers on anything more than 6 inches, automatically goes to our planning commission. So again, going through here, condition number 21 is the one previously referenced, that allows this map to be phased as it is today. And again, these conditions here are conditions from our land development team that they have to comply with. This one here is, these are the conditions placed on the tentative map where the applicant is required to provide hydrology reports for city engineer review, and that all of the drainage and storm drain improvements have to be consistent with city and county requirements. Again, some additional conditions dealing with engineering. More conditions about requiring WQMP requirements, which is Water Quality Management Program. The applicant required to submit improvement plans for all the streets and improvements, dedications that are required. It's getting even smaller, but this one here in summary is all the conditions of approval that relate to improvements and securities that the applicant has to post, which were part of your packet, and they did provide. This is kind of more of the same. A lot of the conditions in dealing with securities and improvements that have to be completed or posted securities for. This deals with all the bonds that they're required to submit and before being considered for the action today. And now these are the fire department conditions of approval, which the applicant did receive approval from the fire department to move forward today. So again, that's the 77 conditions of approval that city staff had to make sure that they are compliant with before coming back to the city council. So what's being considered today, right? There's really 2 main actions and items as part of this that are in front of you today. The first one is the final map itself, right? So this is the final map with the associated subdivision improvement agreement and the grading agreement with the bonds. And there is also as part of that, a construction and maintenance easement agreement. So this is in relation to the item you heard before this, that 0.13 acre site. That is because of that still being on this map, that is a requirement, that is a unique requirement of the action taken today. The final map typically comes on its own, a lot of times as a consent calendar item. But this construction and maintenance easement agreement is something unique because of that 0.13 acre site. It is needed to make sure it is agreement that's needed for this map. That final version of this agreement was executed by the applicant, provided yesterday. So you received this yesterday about 5, and it was uploaded at about 5 p.m. yesterday. It is not and was not a condition of approval from the tentative track map, but it is needed to make sure that the city is excluded from ownership obligations on this final map. So the recommendation today is, as it was in the staff report, adopting a resolution approving the final map and authorizing the mayor to execute that agreement, and authorize the city attorney to make any necessary non-monetary changes to the agreement, and for the city manager to execute said agreement. That concludes my presentation.
Questions, comments?
Yes, I have a really basic question. Ordinarily, I would get this kind of basic question resolved in advance, but as you have pointed out, many of these materials came to us just recently. Final track map 38434-1. Do I understand correctly that what we're being asked to approve at this point is just the northernmost part of the project.
Correct.
So we're not actually, the final track map for the southern part of the project, which has generated so many comments, is not actually before us.
Correct.
That wasn't clear until just now.
I have a concern with that as well, that we got a lot at the very, very last moment. And as we mentioned during another item, when things come at the last moment, it's not quite as comfortable to go through and see changes, but this is substantially a greater volume of documents that were received.
I may. As Councilmember Kelly pointed out, having just received this, it just became clear to her now, and as it did me, because this is what we got that was brought in at 5 o'clock yesterday. I came in at 1 o'clock to make sure if there were any additional things, I might have a couple hours to read it. You can't read something like this in a couple hours. It is unfair to the council. It is unfair to the community. And I would ask under those circumstances, plus there are only 3 of us up here. And for that reason, you're asking us to go from a tentative map to a final map. This has been of great concern to our community. And for all of those reasons, I ask that we continue this to the next meeting. Give us a chance to do our work and do our work right.
I support that. Our residents deserve a better opportunity.
I will agree with my colleagues. I want to add this 2 comments. First of all, I'm deeply grateful to staff for working so hard to do all the verification required of you before presenting this to council. And while we have the ability to decide we're going to postpone it, you needed to be ready to offer those verifications to us. And I appreciate the thoroughness with which that was done. I must say that the realization just confirmed in questions that all that's before us is the most northern part of the project. May ease our discussions at the next session, but I will support what I take to be a motion in a second.
And Madam Mayor, we do have public comment.
Perfect. Thank you. That was my question. I'd seen one hand up. Please.
LC, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yes, good evening. My name is Linda Candler, and I hope you all can hear me. I'm a resident of 74040 Chinook Circle, and we are in the southeast corner of this project, but we have concerns to raise now with the tentative tract map, which, as has been pointed out, relates more to the northern section. It also extends pretty far down, almost to our lot 25. We have been relying on the 50-foot landscape buffer that was specifically provided for in the specific plan. This tract map 38434-1 is an attempt, and we think it's an unfair attempt, to move that buffer zone into 45 feet. That has never been approved to my knowledge. The specific plan specifically said at paragraph 2.4, it's a 50-foot landscape buffer. There's at least 4 other references in those documents submitted in November of 2022. The staff report it says in quotes, this includes 7.9 acres of open space, included a 50-foot wide passive landscape walking trail along the southern and eastern perimeters. Also, the environmental impact statement in 2 different places refers to a 50-foot landscape buffer. The tentative tract map also stated for planning area 5, which is the southeast corner, there's a 50-foot buffer between homes to the east and south. The reason that's important is because now that the grading has occurred, and I'll reference back to that March 5, 2024 hearing in a minute, the rough grading has created a much steeper slope than what is supposed to be behind our house, which is shown on the pad height elevations as being 7 feet. It's actually been moved about 15 feet closer to our back wall, the start of the slope. We have been trying to meet with the city engineer. We've had 1 meeting. We're going back for another one. The grading plan doesn't make sense with what was submitted in November of 2022, which shows a elevation that starts at the base of the back walls of the new lots. Now they've moved it way in. They've dug it down a couple feet to create a bigger retention basin. The slope is completely different. The preliminary tract map said specifically that if there was no cross section, you refer back to the landscape plan. The landscape plan, which I have submitted at previous council meetings, shows that section EE, there's a 7-foot gain, and it has to start at the back wall of the new lot. It can't move in closer to our wall. Now, back to the March 5, 2024 hearing, as Mr. Flores just said, he said that only related to pad elevation changes.
Thank you very much, Ms. Linda. Your time is up, but thank you for zooming in to let us hear your comment.
No other public comments, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I believe that now it's time for any deliberations, any additional comments or concerns after hearing that public comment.
All I might suggest is that if we do proceed with the postponement, the time might afford the applicant the opportunity to act in response to the comments we just heard.
I think that's an excellent observation. Is that a motion? Oh, that's right. So I'm just excited that we're moving on to the final item. I believe now we're ready for a vote.
And I'm sorry, we're continuing this to a date certain?
Yes.
The next meeting?
To the
is-
next meeting. Thank you.
Please.
August. Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Yes.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Mayor Quintanilla.
Yes.
And then for the record, Councilmember Nistandi has recused herself and Councilmember Truby is absent. Motion passes 3-0 to continue the matter to the next city council meeting.
Having no public hearings or information items, this meeting is now adjourned at 6:23 p.m. Thank you so much. See you next month.